And here we have one of these really fucked up comments, and I'm not going to beat around the bush, and I'm not here to beat up this particular person, but I get these comments all the time, and I understand people can only see things from their vantage point, from their own experience in life. And this is in reference to my wife, who unfortunately passed away from alcohol use disorder. And this comes off a video where I had just come home from a long day at work. My wife was cooking something, and she said she needed to get something at the grocery store. So they said, here, take the keys, whatever. She was sober at the time, and it's not my job to babysit my wife 24 hours a day. Family are not the police, they're not security guards, they're not your psychiatrist, they're your spouse. And what happened was she ended up not coming home. She went and bought 2 bottles of 1.75 bottles of wine at a CVS liquor store across the street, and she ended up getting a DUI. She got so drunk she couldn't drive. She almost backed into some people, and she was gone. I found her about 1 o'clock in the morning later that night, and the police had already taken the car. The car was up on the lift, and she'd already been arrested and was gone, and some bystanders told me about what was going on. Somehow, this equates to being my fault. And the thing is, to come on somebody's page, especially when you're talking to a spouse, a surviving spouse, and again, my wife died 5 years ago, and to project that somehow that's the fault of the surviving spouse. It's more insulting than I think anything you could possibly say, and it's incredibly wrong. And this is really indicative of how society operates. They operate through reaction, through ignorance, and this is one of the reasons why I make these kind of videos, is because it's so ignorant. People who don't or have not had an alcoholic in their family don't have any concept. But everybody wants to blame somebody because this outrageous behavior must be somebody's fault. And I understand there are families that are dysfunctional in that way. Maybe they have an alcoholic in their family, and the spouses both drink, and they just they enable each other. Or you might have a child and you allow them to drink in your house and stuff like that. I assure you that was never the case, and I've gone over this to nauseum, to ad nauseum. Alcohol wasn't allowed in my house. Anytime she got it, she had to steal it. She had to steal money to get it. She had friends bring it over. I mean, alcoholics will get alcohol any way they can. However, they're going to manipulate the situation, and it's not the spouse and it's not the people in that person's life to police them 24/7, especially when I got a whole lot of other things in my life going on, like running a business, taking care of our son, taking care of our household, and everything attached to it. I don't need to explain myself to people, but that's the reality. And the reason why I'm explaining it is because people just simply don't get it. If you don't get it, I hope this video helps you. And really, after this particular incident, I mean, this was her 3rd DUI, and unfortunately, about a month later, she got another one when she parked her car at a parking lot up by the clubhouse in our neighborhood, and the police found her because she was drinking, parked at a car. So she got her 3rd and 4th, I think 5 weeks apart. She ended up getting a year. She was sentenced to a year in jail because it was her 3rd and 4th DUI. They let her out after 65 days. She was incarcerated for that long, and then they put her under house arrest for another 6 months, and that went awry as well. I've told stories about what happened, because she could leave during the day. So she had an GPS ankle bracelet on her house, and she had to check in every day, and that didn't even work. So to suggest that somehow it was family is it's just appalling to me. And you have to understand that. I think I've relayed that. The other thing is, you get to the point as a family member where you just can't care anymore, and it's not about you, and you're really going about your day. And a lot of it, and I'm going to continue in the next episode, is really about, she was working on herself. That's some of the reasons why you put up with it. And the truth is, there's so many other complications that are attached to it. I mean, she went to 7 rehabs. I mean, she was working on herself, and there were periods where she was able to stay sober, not very long, but you really hope for the best. And eventually you get to the point where you don't care, and you can't care because you have to make yourself a priority as a family member, and your priority cannot be the well-being of your spouse and worrying about your spouse all the time, because there's a whole hell of a lot more going on in your life than just your crazy spouse. And if you focused all of your attention and energy on your spouse, well, you wouldn't get anything done yourself, and you would lose your mind yourself. I think the reason why I was able to move on so well was because I really had my own life outside this marriage. I mean, I lifted weights, I had a business, I had to take care of our son. I mean, my wife was not the only thing going on. Again, I explain this so that people can understand it, and I know this resonates with families who are going through this exact same thing. Again, I have a complete coaching program that really deals with a lot of this, because I know a lot of families have guilt and stress that they go through. The program is also for the alcoholic, but it's also for the family to understand. Click on the link in the link tree, set up a breakthrough call. It takes about 45 minutes. We're going to do a deep dive into what's going on with you and your family. Really set up a blueprint. I mean, the course is 9 weeks. There's 3.5 hours of content, and then you meet with me once a week. It's very involved, and there's things you have to do every week for both the alcoholic and certainly the family. Click on the link. The call is free. The course is definitely not, but I'm looking for people who want to change their life and the life of their family forever. And really, the last thing I want to say about this comment, I suppose I should read it at some point. I'm sure you've read it yourself. I'm sorry, but you enabled her. It's almost your own fault you put up with that. And to think that somebody's putting up with that. I mean, when you're married for 25 years, it's not like, I know it's easy to be a keyboard warrior and just write out, some triggering comment, but the reality is, when you're married for 25 years, it's not something you can just walk away from like you're snapping your fingers. Okay, you're talking about assets, you're talking about emotions, and when you have children involved, it's not something you want to do. I attempted to keep my family together as best I could until I couldn't anymore. And it didn't end well. I mean, she did pass away, and it was a horrendous death. I hope telling her story, and certainly the story that's in the memoir, Amanda, A Cautionary Tale, gives you insight and pause if you're an alcoholic. If you're a struggling alcoholic, I hope this makes you aware this is the road that you're going down. And if you're a family member, it'll definitely resonate with you, because you will probably experienced everything that I experienced and everything that we write about in this book. It's really about creating awareness, helping families aware of what they're going through, and realize you're not alone. And certainly the most important thing is, the person suffering from this disease, to understand that you need to get help, because it's not just about you, it's also about your family. And I really hope that helps. The book you can purchase right in the link tree. Again, there's a PayPal button on my website. There's an international link. You can purchase this anywhere in the world, and it's also available on Amazon. The ebook is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Apple website. And again, thanks so much for listening. And again, we have one of these cynical, useless, just completely uneducated comments. And the only reason, you have a choice as a creator. You can just move on, or just delete it, or get rid of the person. But sometimes I'll take one of these and really kind of elaborate on why this type of comment is just absolutely absurd and so wrong. And really, the foundation is, before you comment on someone's page, it's probably best to figure out what that page is actually about, what's the purpose of the page, and where that person is coming from. You should never lecture a surviving spouse of someone who passed away without having some kind of knowledge. This is just indicative of not just TikTok, but social media. I think there's a lot of ADHD out there. People don't take the time or bother to take the time about what the page, or what the person, or what we're talking about, or the mission of what's going on in a certain page. And it's easier to pop off and have reactionary emotions about things that you are woefully ignorant about. That's it in a nutshell. Someone who was in the same room and had an opportunity to understand what was going on. And I think that's part of the problem as a content creator, is you have to deal with so many people who are just flying past you, and this is the first time they've seen you. My suggestion, just in general, it's not just this person, but in general, society has to have a much more educated understanding and an awareness of this disorder, disease, alcohol use disorder. So many people are reactionary. They think it's funny. They think it's cute. They think they're being cute. They think they're being funny, although these comments I've seen 1,000 times. This one particular I'm going to go over in just a minute. And again, this is in reference to when my son and I went back up to look at colleges 500 miles north. Back in 2018, a couple of years before my wife passed away, she had to stay at home because she was under house arrest because of her third and fourth DUIs. Okay, she had spent 65 days incarcerated in jail because of overcrowding. They had put her, they put a GPS monitor on her ankle, so she had an ankle monitor. The police were, taking care of her. They, if she left the house or something went awry, they could show up at the house at any time. My son and I needed to get away. Psychologically, we were emotionally exhausted, drained beyond belief. And really for my son just as much as I, and certainly my son was more important to get him away from this situation. So we left, and we were in 5 days. We went up to San Francisco, we went to Santa Cruz, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and San Francisco was 4th of July. I think we watched the fireworks in the Bay that particular week, 2018. So unfortunately, my wife didn't respond after that particular Monday, and we stayed. We were on a mission. I mean, I had to look at some colleges for him. He was going to college the following, within like 2 or 3 months. We needed to make this trip and look at some schools. Very important. Sometimes it's more important than what's going on at home. Also, she was with the police, but there's one more thing I want to say just in the next segment. Now, the absolutely most important thing here is to understand is that spouses, family in general, are not the police. They're not your prison guard. They're not your psychiatrist, your counselor. They're your spouse or your family member. They're one of your loved ones. It is not their responsibility to be their babysitter 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter what the situation is. Now, again, if you watch the video, it's got thousands, millions of views. I've showed it a couple times in that version of it. We came home and she had drinking herself almost into oblivion. Somehow she got bottles of wine. There was probably 10, 12 empty bottles of wine on the coffee table in front of her, and empty cans of beer all over the living room. She had vomit all over the front of her and other bodily fluid sitting on the couch. When I walked in the door, finally, I wasn't sure if she was dead or alive. She hadn't made a contact. People have a problem with me. Well, why didn't you call a friend to come over? You cannot babysit somebody 24 hours a day. Unless you've been in this situation, there's no way you could possibly understand. I don't care. I mean, there's no way you could understand. You're beyond exhausted. Those who have been in this situation, and that there are tens of thousands of people who have dealt with an alcoholic in their family, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They understand completely. For those who don't, the problem with judgment, and that'll be the last segment. Now, the problem with cynical, judgy comments like this, I'm going to read it real quick. I haven't read it yet. My thoughts exactly: bizarre behavior by the husband. He's more interested in selling his story. What? Yeah, that's my comment. What are you talking about? I mean, it's just be rude somewhere else. Honestly, I mean, if you're going to come on someone's page, be rude. This is a very pure, honest, very, very open and raw page, and that's the only way you can tell the truth, and that's the only way you can help people is be truthful, be raw, tell the truth. That's the way. The problem is society loves to judge, and that's a large part of the reasons why people who suffer from alcohol use disorder will not seek help, because they're dealing with guilt, anxiety, stress, shame. Shame is the biggest one. It's easy to shame somebody who has a mental disorder. That's the easiest thing in the world. Oh, you're a drunk. Oh, you're useless. You're a loser. We got to stop doing that. We got to stop making ignorant, uneducated comments like this. We got to do better. We got to do better than this. And the last thing I want to say, what was the comment here? He's more interested in selling his story. Yeah, I'm very interested in selling the story of my wife, Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism, because it's helped save thousands of people. This book has been sold in over 20 countries, has hundreds of reviews on Amazon, on other sites. It's been out for 6 months, and it will be in every rehab, AA, smart recovery, every group therapy, detox facility eventually in the United States and worldwide. It's been sold in everywhere from Egypt the Middle East, United Arab Emirates. It's been sold in Poland, Switzerland, and Ethiopia, to name a few. Okay, all over Europe, all over the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. I mean, all over the place. This book has been. It's been out 6 months, so it's an important book, and it's an important book because it's from the family perspective. Few people get to hear what the family goes through. It's a family disease. To find the book, again, link is in the link tree. You can go to my website. There's also an international link. You can purchase this anywhere in the world. Also available on Amazon, and then the ebook is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and the Apple website. Again, thanks for listening. Wow. So here we go. Let me read this to you. They say alcohol doesn't add years to your life, but it does add life to your years. Wow. This is what I like to call alcohol logic, or drunk logic is a better term for it. And what it is, it's a rationalization for doing something that you know that's going to put you in harm's way, eventually all your relationships in harm's way, certainly your productivity, what you do for a living, what you do in this world, in harm's way, and it's ultimately going to destroy your health. But let's have a good time while we're here. And a lot of this is response to a video I made a couple weeks ago that went viral, and it's in response to life expectancy. Okay, and this is from the NIAA, National Institute of Alcoholic Abuse and Alcoholism, and the AMA, American Medical Association. I don't just pull these figures out of nowhere. Okay, women live on average, someone who's been drinking since their teenage years, for example, between the ages of 53 and 58. This is a statistic average. Anomalies can happen. People can live into their 80s. Some people die in their 20s. Men, not so well, 47 to 53. Again, some people die like Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin died at 27. Okay, Churchill lived to be 90. They were all alcoholics. They all had problems. There are anomalies. The average person probably isn't going to, male or female, probably isn't going to see 60 if they've been drinking on a continual basis. The vast majority of people are not going to see their 6th decade because they've been drinking for 30, 40 years, somewhere in that range, and high volumes of alcohol because it's a progressive disease. But let's carry this conversation on further. And really the problem I have with a statement like this is really the mentality behind it and the identity that so many people have. And before people get, all bent out of shape, I'm not talking about people who are normalized drinker. What if I have a glass of wine once a week? Is that okay? No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about people who do get stuck in this format of progressive disease. They drink every day. They drink 4 or 5 days a week, or they binge drink on the weekends, and that's starting to permeate into their week and into their life and into their relationships. I'm not talking about someone like myself, for example, who buys a 12-pack of beer and it sits in the refrigerator for 3 months. We're not talking about that. We're talking about people who have developed a problem in their life. It affects 29 million people in the United States alone. 29 million people have an issue with alcohol use disorder, some level of addiction. So yeah, this is a very real thing, and there aren't enough people out there to tell you when you start to drink, when you have that bottle of wine, when you have that beer, when you have that whiskey or vodka or whatever you're drinking, amaretto, whatever you're drinking, there's no label on there that says the road you're going down, because the people who sell it don't really care. The other side of the coin of alcohol needs to be discussed, it needs to be explored, and it needs to be exposed. Again, real quick, I have a complete coaching program. It's designed really for the family. It's called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. Set up a breakthrough call. It takes about 45 minutes. The link is right in my bio in the link tree. I'm really looking for people who want to change their life and the life of their family. It's a family disease. It's important for everybody to get a voice. Certainly the focus is on the person that has the disease, but it's also for the family. The call is free, the course is not. But again, I'm looking for people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired and want to find some change in your life, in your life. I've helped thousands of people. I developed the program because my wife went to 7 rehab facilities, and one of the things that I noticed after she passed away was there was no, you know, break between the alcohol, the rehab facility, and then there was nobody for her to organize what she needed to do with her day and where to go and what to do. You're left kind of out in the open, and you really need a coach to get you through and really apply what you learned in rehab or in whatever group therapy that you're doing and apply that to your real life. Make the call. Thanks so much. Yeah, and the other really problem with this mentality of, drinking because you only live once, what are we here for? We're here to have fun. It's not just about you all the time. Maybe it's going to affect your children, or you were affected from your parents, because we do what our parents do. We don't do what they say, they do what they become. And if you're creating an environment of alcohol and drug intoxication, and you are an influence around the people, your children or other people in your life, it's not just about you. So there's a lot more to look at, and there's a bigger picture to look at. That's certainly, definitely the case. So many people have an identity of being a drinker. That's not an identity you want to have. If that's your religion, is drinking, living for today, that's not a productive life. That's not a life. That's not a legacy that you want to live. Certainly not one that's going to be long-standing or going to have long-standing provocations. Hope that helps. And really, the last thing I want to say is, I had people that would really argue with me and tell me that there's so many benefits to alcohol, like it relaxes people, it's good for your heart, and all this kind of nonsense. No, it's not. Alcohol is a class 1 carcinogen. It doesn't matter what form it comes in, if it's beer or alcohol or wine or spirits or any variation of alcohol is alcohol. It matters zero. Other than maybe there's a higher content in spirits. Most of those are 40% by volume or more, compared to wine that's 11% and beer that's anywhere between 3 and 10%, for example. But it's all alcohol. It's ethanol. It will destroy your body. We're made up of organic material. It'll burn your, eventually, it'll burn your throat out, your intestinal tract, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your pancreas, and eventually your brain. So live and let live. I don't know. I wouldn't want to spend my last years suffering from Wernicke-Korsakoff or any form of dementia or being slowed down or any other physical problems. It's not worth it, and there's really no point to it. This kind of mentality really is just it breeds. It comes from really immaturity, and it comes from someone who's never experienced, either in themselves or a loved one, suffering from alcohol use disorder. Because after having lived with my wife for 25 years, and certainly the last 6 or 7 years of her life were just atrocious, and I mean it's almost amazing I even made it through with her. It's a disease, probably the worst way to leave this earth that you can imagine. I can't imagine a worse way, other than living in the medieval era. It's hell on earth, literally. And I hope that helps. And really, the last caveat, if you want to read about my wife's story, certainly the last years and how this all came to be. Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. Again, you can find the link right in the link tree. It's available on my website. The international link is also on the link tree. It's available on Amazon, and then ebook is Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and the Apple website. Pick up a copy. Thanks for listening.